The sky is gray and heavy with snow. At Washington National, a Boeing 737 rolls onto a runway dressed in white. The runway is slick, the air cold enough that everything feels sharper than usual.
The plane lifts off, climbs, and then, about 30 seconds later, the climb stops. It doesn't just slow down, it stops climbing like it's suddenly lost its grip on the sky.
90 minutes of headlines come later, but the truth behind the crash is quieter than that. 74 people were about to drown in a frozen river because of a patch of ice small enough to miss with a glance on the wing's leading edge. Not a whole wing, not a dramatic sheet, just a tiny strip, 10 centimeters wide, a thin layer so light you might not notice it from your seat window.
And the scary part? It didn't take just one failure. It took a chain of 6 weak links. Any one of them broken in time would have saved lives. All 6 failing together is what turned a winter flight into a disaster.
So imagine you're sitting where you always sit, waiting for takeoff. You don't know there's an invisible chain holding you up too, but you can understand it. You can see where the links are.
Anti-ice isn't a heater, it's a valve. Inside the leading edge of the wing you flow next to, hidden behind thin aluminum skin, there's a network of tubes. Those tubes carry hot air taken directly from the engine's combustion area. The temperature is around 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit. That's not a cozy warmth.
That's fire-hot air routed into the wing's front edge. In the cockpit, there's a button labeled something like Wing Anti-Ice. When you press it, you're not turning on a little cabin heater. The system opens a valve, and that valve floods the wing's front structure with hot bleed air. If that valve doesn't open, if it fails, or if it's not commanded, you don't get a slow, forgiving buildup of ice. The wing can start turning into a block of ice in under 90 seconds. Link 2, the system doesn't wait for ice to be visible. Now, here's something that sounds reassuring until you think about it. A lot of safety systems watch for ice forming, but in this case, the timing matters more than the detection. By the time an ice sensor notices ice on the wing, it may already be too late to recover. The wing can be effectively done. So engineers changed the logic decades ago.
Instead of asking, "Is there ice right now?" they ask, "When could ice become dangerous?"
That means the system is built on prediction and timing, calibrated estimates that assume a winter condition will develop into a specific kind of hazard. You're trusting math done before you were born, calculated for planes and seasons and probabilities, not for your exact moment on your exact flight. Back to Flight 90. The chain begins when fluid hits the wing. Air Florida Flight 90 is preparing to leave. Snow is falling. Before pushback, the ground crew sprays the wings with orange glycol fluid. That fluid isn't magic. It doesn't permanently prevent ice. It delays it, melts light frost, and slows new buildup, buying the aircraft a limited window of time.
That window has a name: holdover time. For the conditions that day, it's roughly 22 minutes. But the plane doesn't go airborne in 22 minutes.
Link 2 in action. The timer keeps running. Flight 90 sits. Snow continues. The clock keeps counting. More than 30 minutes pass before takeoff. So the wing isn't in protected mode anymore. It's in exposed mode again. Link 3, following another aircraft, backfires. When the pilots finally taxi, they make a decision that seems sensible. They follow close behind another jet, hoping the hot exhaust will help keep their wings clean. But the winter reality is messy. The exhaust doesn't just lift off what you want. It can stir slush and droplets from the taxiway and blow them right back onto the wing, exactly where you don't want contamination. So the wing gets worse, not better. Link 4, a switch is left off. Then the checklist. Everything has to be right. But in this case, one switch isn't set to on. The engine anti-ice system, the part that keeps critical temperature probes warm and accurate. Without that heat, those probes freeze.
Link 5, the engines lie through the instruments. When the probes freeze, the engine's performance readings become unreliable. The instruments can tell the pilots they have full takeoff thrust when they don't. In other words, the plane's sensors report optimism while the real engines deliver less power.
The first officer senses the mismatch and speaks up. That doesn't seem right. The captain presses on. And that brings us to Link 6. Link 6. The ice on the wing steals lift. The Boeing 737 rotates and climbs, but the wing they trusted isn't clean. A thin layer of ice sits on the upper surface near the leading edge.
Aerodynamics are unforgiving. Even a small reduction in the wing's effective angle can lower the stall margin. The result is catastrophic for the specific moment after takeoff. Stable climb becomes a falling brick.
Flight 90 can't clear the 14th Street Bridge. The landing gear tears through traffic. The aircraft breaks apart and disappears into the Potomac. The tail is all that remains visible above the water. 74 people die. Only 5 survive.
Now, pause here, because the story gets worse in a different way. Not because the basics are different, but because the chain doesn't stop at one historic crash. The same general design problem can persist, even when airlines and regulators make improvements. The one-wing idea is outdated. Modern wings have zones. Modern jetliners often divide the leading edge into multiple independent zones, sometimes 9 per wing.
Each zone has its own valve and sensor. The aircraft computer checks those zones frequently and can log faults for maintenance, but it can do this without alerting the flight deck. So the pilots may not know a specific zone isn't behaving correctly, especially if the aircraft decides it can continue operating under certain conditions. And there's another blind spot. Sensors don't always see ice directly. They may measure outer skin temperature. If an internal mixing chamber cracks, if the pathway that delivers hot air is compromised, air entering the wing can be too cool to prevent ice.
Meanwhile, the outside sensor can still read normal because the surrounding structure conducts heat and smooths out the temperature cues. So one zone can quietly accumulate ice while the instruments stay green. That's what makes it a chain again, because it's not just one thing. It's multiple layers of looks fine that allow risk to grow. Older planes' rubber boots can fail in hidden ways. Before these advanced systems, some aircraft used pneumatic de-icing boots. Picture rubber sheets bonded along the leading edge. They inflate like a cuff, cracking ice off and shedding it. They work until they don't. Over repeated thermal cycles, micro tears can grow invisibly inside the boot's internal channels. A boot can look intact from the outside, and even a flashlight inspection might miss what matters.
And then one cold night, the boot ruptures. Ice forms where the boot doesn't protect the wing properly. This pattern showed up in 2 widely reported crashes.
In 1994, American Eagle Flight 4184, an ATR-72, crashed in Indiana. The boots had cycled all the way down, and still the ice pattern formed beyond the boot coverage area, on the upper wing surface. 68 people died in a soybean field. Startled and tired, reacted incorrectly, pulling back instead of pushing forward. The wing stalled completely. 50 people died. In both cases, the key wasn't just there was ice. It was that the system and the assumptions about where protection reaches couldn't fully guarantee that the wing stays safe in the real world. Regulators do respond. After 4184, the FAA added a tail de-icing boot and revised procedures and training. But the fundamental problem, ice forming in the gaps that protection systems can't reach, doesn't always have a clean regulatory fix that closes every scenario. So every winter flight remains a bet. De-icing fluid doesn't erase risk, it buys time, and humans matter. Now let's talk about the orange fluid you see at the gate. De-icing fluid doesn't prevent ice forever. It delays it. That means holdover time isn't a rumor, it's the real boundary between protected and vulnerable. If an airplane sits on the taxiway for 40 minutes after being sprayed, common during delays, holdover time can run out. Then the last minutes before takeoff become the final test of whether enough protection remains.
But there's another twist that's easy to miss. Holdover time failures aren't always caused by expired chemicals. In accident investigations, a large share of anti-icing failures were linked to improper application.
Not the fluid being wrong, the application being wrong. Nozzle angle too far from the wing, pressure too low, coverage incomplete, especially on the upper surface, where you can't easily see from the cabin.
In other words, the airline can follow the checklist, but if the wing isn't uniformly treated, the risk returns.
There was a Cleveland accident in 2019 involving a Commute Air Embraer 145 where the wing looked clean to the naked eye, but a bare aluminum patch remained on an outboard slat. That was enough.
Newest planes have an electrical anti-ice system too, and it has its own chain. You might think, okay, but surely newer airplanes fix this. The Boeing 787 uses an electrical heating approach instead of bleed air or boots.
Its leading edge has a black carbon polyurethane coating laced with microscopic copper filaments. When anti-ice is needed, electrical current heats the leading edge.
But even that system depends on health. Over repeated thermal cycles, the copper performance can degrade. If one heating zone drops below a certain power threshold, the aircraft can pull more current from nearby zones. That can strain the electrical system margin, sometimes visible indirectly, like brief flickers of cabin lights during takeoff.
Passengers might blame turbulence, but it could be the plane compensating for a wing surface that's losing heating effectiveness. You won't usually be told, but the chain still exists, just with different links. So what do you do with all this? You don't have to be an engineer to reduce your risk awareness. You just need to pay attention to the few moments that control the chain. Here are 4 practical rules.
Rule 1. Time is the enemy. The longer the wait between de-icing and takeoff, the closer you are to the edge of holdover time. If the aircraft sat for a long stretch in falling snow after being sprayed, and the crew didn't request another treatment, that's the moment to be more alert to what's really happening.
Rule 2. If the wing looks contaminated, treat it as contaminated. If the wing appears wet, glossy, streaked, or uneven, don't assume it's just water. It may be frost, slush, or residue. Airlines follow the clean aircraft concept for a reason. If it isn't clean, it doesn't fly safely. Rule 3. Remember the underside. Ice isn't only on top. If the aircraft sat overnight in freezing conditions, cold-soaked fuel and airflow around the fuselage can lead to underside icing. It's not visible from the gate and usually isn't noticeable from the cabin. It's a maintenance concern you can't confirm, but it's worth recognizing as real. Rule 4. Winter errors come in waves. Cold weather strains people and schedules. That pressure can lead to fatigue, missed callouts, and rushed decisions. The risk doesn't behave like a simple probability chart that assumes everything fails independently. In winter, things cluster, like winks failing close together. And that's the emotional takeaway. You aren't supposed to panic. You're supposed to stay awake to the parts of flying that most people never think about. Before takeoff, watch the de-icing truck. Look at whether the spray reaches the upper wing surface. Notice the wait time, then count the minutes in your head. Because somewhere, on some winter night, a plane might be seconds away from needing one more link to hold. And if you ever hear a faint thump on approach, boots inflating, ice cracking free, a system finally doing its job, you'll recognize the sound for what it is. Not just routine, it's the wing fighting back.
You're not paranoid, you're just aware. And awareness is the one thing the passengers in those stories, frozen river, soybean field, suburban street, never got the chance to have.